Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I'm using my phone. I've never done that before, so
Oh, well, it's working.
okay.
You got a very nice picture. I don't
Thanks.
remember.
It's like,
Is it new? I don't remember seeing that before.
yeah, it's new. I took it over to summer. It's one of the two good pictures of me.
Yeah, well, it worked. You only need one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're early, but we'll see who shows up. Right? We can do that. So when you do it on your phone, do you just do audio?
I can do video, but it'd be hard because I'd hold up my phone.
Yeah, I just wondered if it, yeah, because I don't think I've ever done it on the phone before. So good to know.
Yeah. I got the app and
Yeah, I downloaded it to my phone because I was in a car one time where I needed to be on a meeting, but then I didn't understand the concept of time zones and I screwed up. So she uses UTC, right? Universal something or other, which as near as I can figure, nobody uses. So I goofed. And, but so I ended up being ready, but never using it. So I wonder where her speaker is and everybody else. We must be in the right place though, since you logged in on it.
yeah,
Did you go through the Canvas site?
I did.
Okay, because I went through an email. So apparently they're going to the same place. You know, I still only have trust this whole thing, so. Okay. Is it Friday yet? Sitting here doing a crossword puzzle on my tablet. Gonna check my email.
Nice. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm?
hopefully, somewhat other people come.
Yeah, well, this is the 18s, right?
Yeah, they're.
I don't see anybody in my email asking any questions. So apparently I can do that on my phone. Go off again. So we'll see. There's Ryan. Okay. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Good.
Well, good. Well, we're just a tad early and we're seriously hoping our speaker makes it before long. Okay, don't see anything in my email that we need to know. Did you guys go to the one we did last year? Okay.
I went to the second one, or that's last year's one.
I didn't remember we did two. We only did one last year because we didn't have any juniors.
Oh yeah.
So this year we split them because there's some that you guys weren't really ready for earlier, but there she is. So that's why we had to split it. Hi, Dr. Medley, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so sorry. I was in the room for next week. I was
Oh.
like, there's nobody else here.
Yeah, well, we have an elite group at the moment.
Yes, I can see that.
But I want to be respectful of your time, so I'm only going to wait just a
That's absolutely fine.
couple of minutes.
And honestly, if we do end up just having the smaller group, I may change up how we kind of go about this.
Hey, the way I figure it is Ryan and Alicia have a jump on the others, right?
If absolutely.
So, yeah. The other thing that's interesting about COVID times is that now that we're Zooming everything, we're recording everything.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way that gives them an excuse not to be in person, but it's a good thing because those who can't attend don't miss it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I get all out of sorts myself when I can't attend something live. Not because I won't watch the recording. I find that I'm actually doing a pretty good job at doing that, you know, at a later date. But because I'm a question asker, you know, I'm just like, I need clarification about this, and this is the time you're going to give it to me. So
I'm liking that map of Florida behind you.
oh, thank you. Yeah, we have that.
Is it historic or does it have a theme or?
It's well, it's a copy of a historic map. I want to say it's from maybe like Andrew Jackson sort of times, somewhere in the 1800s. Yeah, it's got a big chunk kind of cut out at the bottom. But my partner and I are both from Florida originally, and you know, when lived elsewhere, missed Florida, and bought that map, and you know, but now we're back. So
now it looks like you did it on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, we met in Arizona, and now we kind of want one like it that's Arizona.
So you can find a historic map of Arizona.
Yeah.
Maybe for the same time period, right?
Yeah. Well, not too much settlement there, but
that's what I was going to say. And the borders might be significantly different.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and yeah, the size of settlements. There are obviously a lot of indigenous people there. I mean, Santa Fe, one of my favorite facts is that Santa Fe, New Mexico was founded the same year as Jamestown, Virginia.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't known that for a long time. But so yeah, it's definitely people in the area, but mapping could be tricky.
Hi, Garrett. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dr. Donnelly?
Super. So I think we'll go ahead and get started so that we don't take, you know, we don't need to be respectful of Dr. Medley's time. As you guys know, last year we had she did a thing for us on high impact scholarships. But this year we split it out because now that you guys are juniors, there are other things that you should be looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Medley, who you guys should know from the honors office. She's the keeper of all the information on these, and also will help you with any of these applications. Because we all want you guys to apply and get these.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you, all three of you. I'm sure it is, you know, late in the week, getting a little zoomed out of things, I'm sure. I do have a presentation, and I'll move through the beginning of it rather quickly, not because they're things that I'm assuming you know, but because they're pretty direct. There's not any big sort of secret to the things I'll initially talk about, but I do definitely want to talk more and focus on the actual awards that we're talking about and that you'll be more specifically eligible for now. I have to admit, really truthfully, today is actually a big shift in who I'm sort of speaking to about what awards. Just this week and really the last 2 or 3 weeks have been the big deadlines for all of the awards for seniors. So that's actually really important, I think, for you all to know as kind of a guidepost. So even though you're like, I'm just starting, you know, my 3rd year in so many ways, that literally this time a year from now, you will have have done a ton of stuff. You'll have put in a ton of work to be applying for lots of prestigious awards, even before you're probably starting graduate school applications right about now. You will have been doing a lot at this point because a lot of the awards with those early fall deadlines for seniors, they really require you to start sometimes as early as the late spring semester. So even just a few months from now, but definitely a lot of work on these over the summer. So this is really where, like I said, I have a really unique shift in sort of the year where I really start working with a lot more third year students on awards relevant to second and third year students, but I continue to see those third year students for at least a year at this point, starting from now until, again, they're kind of finishing applying for those senior year awards. So looking forward to getting to know you, I suppose, is what all of that means over the next year. So I do have, like I mentioned, a bit of a presentation I'm going to pull up. There is my contact information. I will show it again, and I can always pass that along to all of you. But yeah, like we were kind of chatting before, I am from Florida. I'm a double Gator, actually. I left UF about a decade ago, went and worked at several other institutions around the US, and was actually really, really excited to return to UF specifically for this job. Prior to my taking this position, it had really been a part of one person's job, or there were just faculty sort of in different places that were really big champions of certain awards, but not necessarily a central place that was dedicated to helping students really win prestigious awards and help them through this really critical and reflective application process. So I was, as an alum, like, yeah, I want to do that. This is what I absolutely, embarrassed almost as an alum that we don't have as a resource right now. So I'm really happy I'm here and able to help fill this really important position and work with all of you to help you, reach even higher than you already are, because I know you're all doing really, really amazing things. Like Dr. Donnelly said, I am in the honors program, and I know most, if not all of you, are also in honors. But something maybe just important contextually for you to know, I actually work with all students at UF. So not just honors undergraduates, but all undergraduates. So if you have if you hear of an award that you're like, well, that's not for me, but I actually have a friend who would love that, and they're not in honors, that's totally fine. Please send them my way. I also work with graduate students. So if you go on and also, like me, do your graduate education at UF, that's absolutely great. And I would love to work with you on awards that are specific to graduate students as well. Additionally, I work with alumni. So as long as you're not already attending another institution, I actually can work with you after you graduate to apply as well. There's actually a lot of alumni that I've just wrapped up working with on Fulbright and a few other things. So just good to know. I'm it basically for the entirety of the University of Florida. Everybody comes to me, even graduates. So that means I'm working with a lot of students at any given time. But obviously I am housed in the honors program. So hopefully most of you are seeing and kind of getting some access to the things that I put out, whether it be in the Honors on Wednesday newsletter, or we do a lot of social media, particularly on Fridays related to these awards. So #Fellowship Friday, check it out. That's always a good place to kind of find out about cool things that other past students have won and are doing as well. So this is kind of what I'm just going to go through a little bit tonight. So what even is this? Just a little recap of what I'm actually talking about and why, potentially as well. Some of the common means of evaluation or the criteria used for a lot of these awards we're going to talk about. And then the really, really fun stuff, which is the actual awards. And that's what I actually really want to get to more with this smaller group. And we'll even, kind of do that as a more free flow, like you're welcome to ask questions as we go through the awards as well. But these first two areas I'm kind of going to go through fairly quickly. So yeah, the what even is this kind of question. So first of all, you're going to hear a lot of different names that all mean the same thing. Prestigious awards, fellowships, scholarships, high impact awards. There's a lot of nomenclature that really all sort of mean the same things. These are external awards, typically funded by, foundations or the State Department or just any of these external sort of entities that choose to fund and invest in students for very specific purposes, right? They want to invest in you or in an experience or in an activity that potentially that they're going to send you to do or give you some kind of recognition through these awards because they see the purpose of their foundation or whatever entity they represent really investing in you. So the most common thing, of course, among these is that they are really extremely prestigious. They are competitive. These are not awards that you apply to the night before they're due by any stretch of the imagination. There are students competing for these awards nationwide, if not even worldwide in some of these cases. They are extremely generous, certainly in the funding. The funding is not really the point. I mean, money's nice, we all like that for sure. But actually most of these awards don't even necessarily just hand you a check. They are like, okay, we are now going to send you to Kenya to, learn this language and we're gonna fund that experience. There are some awards that do sort of just give you money directly for recognition, purposes. But again, there is this expectation that there is this return on this investment in you. So that's kind of just good to keep in mind. And like I said, they're generally all going to offer you networking opportunities that will last a lifetime that you can absolutely build on throughout your careers. Mentorship is really, really critical for many of them, whether that's peer or actually pairing you with, the person who has the job or the position in the exact field you want. Again, because many of these are really, really highly specific in that way. Like we said, they are competitive. So I do want you all to be conscientious consumers. Like I said, the money isn't everything, but time is money, and these are a big time investment. So I do want to be really, really upfront with what kind of level of competition and prestige we're talking about. I will tell you right now, this is sort of the 2017 Rhodes Scholar, data that we have, right, about that competition. Rhodes is always the easiest one to talk about when we talk about prestige because everyone just is like, oh, the Rhodes, right? So it's definitely the easy sort of extreme example here. But the key here is to also know that this is attainable. You too can be a Rhodes Scholar. You really, really, truly can. Again, we have the comparison rate, right, of that year of how many people who applied as undergraduates to Harvard were accepted versus how many people won the Rhodes Scholarship. I am willing to bet that some of you were admitted to Harvard. So again, this is an absolutely attainable thing. It is not too pie in the sky, but it does take a lot of time and it does take a lot of effort and a lot of people helping you along the way as well, which I'll get to a little bit. So yes, it's the chances, again, in our most extreme example of the Rhodes, the overall odds of success here are very low. But the, odds of winning if you don't apply are absolutely non-existent. So that's also really, really important to know, right? I will tell you that the more you apply for these awards, the much better you also get at applying for these awards. The first time you win one, there's like this domino effect of others that you win. I have a student right now, she just started her Pickering Fellowship. She's going to be a Pickering Fellow the next 2 years. She went a Gilman as an undergraduate, a Fulbright upon graduating, and now she's a Pickering. So they really do tend to build. So you can start with maybe sometimes that smaller award and you will start to see that, oh, somebody else recognized them for this prestigious award. Maybe we should really consider their application as well. It really does tend to build in that way. So you want to start early, that's for sure. So a few other things, right, to really kind of consider why even bother applying if maybe the odds are so slim, because there's a lot you can actually gain from the process itself. So you can learn about yourself, and I'm not a super like rosy, lovey-dovey person, but that is a really, really important thing to be able to learn about yourself, to reflect, to be able to tell others why you are someone worth investing in, about the skills that you've gained, the careers you hope to have. All of this is really, really important. And again, it is going to help you in the long run. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I just finished all of these senior awards, right? And now so many of these seniors are like, whew, okay, finally done with all of those applications for those fellowships. Now I have to apply to graduate school. And they're looking at those now going like, oh, this is easy. Like, this is nothing. You know, their recommenders are overjoyed because it's one less letter that they essentially have to write as well, because they've been writing them letters the last several months for these awards. So it really actually does make a lot of other things that you're definitely going to apply for a lot easier as well, for you and others. I think the most telling thing, if you really do like sort of using data to demonstrate your points like I do, this very simplistic pie chart says a lot. At my previous institution, we surveyed students who had gone through, you know, even just applying for one fellowship, and asked them, regardless of the outcome, so regardless of if you end up winning or losing this thing, what's your overall impression of the application process? Was this worth it, right? Did you get something out of it? You can see that over 80% said, oh, it was absolutely very valuable. It was a very valuable endeavor and worth my time to do, right? 13% more said it was fairly valuable. A smaller percentage said it was somewhat valuable, but nobody that responded to that survey said that it was not in any way valuable. So there is something to be learned just going through the process, and there is a lot to be gained. That I wish I could show you my emails right now of what people who have just finished applying have been saying to me about like, oh, I've learned this, I became a better writer, I didn't know I needed to do this, now I know that, and that's making this easier. It's all really, really a very beneficial experience that everyone can get something out of. So I do, yeah, this is important, kind of this slide to just mention, and again, we'll move through it pretty quickly as we start talking about the common criteria that you'll use. There is no ideal applicant for prestigious awards. There is maybe an ideal applicant for a Fulbright ETA, for a Goldwater, for a UDAL. There is an ideal applicant to some extent for an award, right? Because an award fit really, really matters. What you're studying and what that award wants to fund needs to mesh in some way, right? What you aim to do career-wise or academically needs to mesh with what that award is seeking to fund. But there is no one person that is a good fit for prestigious awards overall, and that's completely okay. So just know that you're all essentially able to apply to these awards. You are all a good fit. You're just not going to be a good fit for every award that I have in my bag of tricks necessarily. And I will say you likely need improvement. Even at this juncture, you likely need improvement in some area, and that's okay too. That's part of why this application experience is an experience, and it is a process, because you're going to grow and you're going to actually develop and improve in some of these areas that you may not realize you may be deficient right now. So really quickly, I'm going to go into that common means of evaluation. Like I said, I did put an asterisk right here with the 4 that I'm about to talk about. I put that asterisk next to letters of recommendation because honestly, I think if you had asked me a year from now, I maybe wouldn't have said this, but maybe it's just lately what I've been seeing in some of the more disappointed people. But the thing that I'm actually seeing the most among many UF students is that they do not have enough, or I shouldn't say enough, but they don't have mentors. They don't have the right mentors. They don't have enough mentors sometimes to apply for these awards. You don't have people writing on your behalf. And so a lot of students who it's like, okay, you tick all of these boxes, great, great, great. We get down to, we'll use that Rhodes extreme example again. Rhodes wants you to have 8 letters of recommendation, 5 of which need to be from full-time faculty members. All of a sudden you don't have that, you're not applying for the Rhodes now, right? Even though you might meet every single other section that's great, you're literally not eligible. We're going to try to find something else that's going to help meet your goals. So that's just something to really be aware of. I do have a lot of really great resources on how to connect with faculty and sort of develop mentorship. Again, I'll get to it when we kind of get to that slide about letters, but do know that is something to be thinking about, the who you have, willing to write on your behalf. And unfortunately, in some cases, what their title is and how long they have been in their career. It really is important for some of these awards, not all, but some for sure. And so we'll help read between the lines of who you need to be asking for what at any given point. So your academic record. Generally speaking, these are prestigious awards, so you better have a pretty decent academic record, right? Most awards, that means you should have a good GPA in context of the relevant courses that you're taking. We want to see, grades that are trending upwards. So if, you were like me as an undergraduate, you came in, you thought you were going to be a dentist, evidently, because someone told you that'd be a good idea. And you actually really do not like chemistry whatsoever, have any background in it, and did very poorly in those classes. Change your major to something you really liked, something you excelled in. That's an upward trend that we're talking about in grades, right? So something where maybe you had a transition, whether you were in the wrong major or just having a really, really hard time because of something that happened to you maybe in a particular semester, but we want to show recovery from that. So it's a GPA in context, and we want to see those trends. And again, a challenging and an appropriate curriculum as well. Now, as you can see, some awards do truly have a cutoff. I am very upfront with, again, Rhodes, Marshall applicants, Goldwater applicants that, look, the GPA that it says that, is eligible to apply on the website for that award might be lower than what you have, but it's still not high enough to actually win that award. These are the reasons I talk to, award representatives all the time and go to conferences, is because I'm really aware of what that foundation actually is looking for in their winners. So what they say sometimes is not always what they actually in practice then end up turning out. So I am really upfront with students because, again, I want you to be conscious consumers of your time, and we put that effort and time into another award that's a great fit for you and gonna help you meet your goals just as well as that other award that maybe isn't just based on the actual criteria we know they're looking for. Co-curricular activities. This covers everything, but really I do want to focus on the aspect of this demonstrated leadership. So we are not talking necessarily about titles, we're talking about outcomes. So it is great if you have friends and peers that elected you to certain positions in certain organizations, but we need to hear about what you did with that. It doesn't always have to be something quantifiable, but you want to connect the dots for any reviewers of awards that you're applying to about why, when you were the director of internal communications or what have you for an organization, what you did with that, what that means to you. Was there a change that needed to take place that you executed? Was there a gap that you addressed? That's what demonstrated leadership is really about. It's about being able to tell about the outcomes of what you did in a position. And that's not even necessarily, you don't have to be in a leadership position of a title to have demonstrated leadership as well. You can certainly be a member and take on sort of that transformative leadership role. That absolutely is essential too. But we're talking about, again, when we talk with co-curricular involvement, again, things that are going to be typically more concentrated. Most of these awards don't want to know about everything that you do. They want to know about the things that you're doing that actually connects to your future, and again, what they're looking to actually fund, the relevant aspects of it. Certainly research, and as much as possible, I'm sure you're all going to be presenting at the Undergraduate Symposium coming up. Right?
Good plug.
Yes, absolutely. That is something that's going to be asked about on those applications. They want to know on your CV, what presentations have you done, what conferences have you attended, what posters, and the Undergraduate Research Symposium is a fantastic way to start building that, just here locally on campus, but then you can move that to a state conference, a regional, a national, international, certainly as well. So yeah, in any of the things listed here would certainly count for curricular involvement. But again, demonstrating that to the reviewers of that award, how this connects big picture for you is very important. So self-reflection, the personal statement, the statement of grant purpose, the grant statement, there's a lot of different statements in a lot of these awards. Some awards are going to ask you for one statement. One award that I can think of asks you for about 15. So there's everything in between. And some with those 15, some are longer, some are shorter, certainly, but they're all very, very important. So this is probably the most time, if you are doing it right and actually being truly competitive for what you're applying to, this is the part that's going to take the most time. With, again, Fulbright's on my mind because our deadline was just 2 days ago for that. We see typically an average of 4 revisions for statements for Fulbright. Truthfully, for some of the students who are applying to do research, they're looking at more like actually an average of like 6 revisions before they have a really truly finished product. Again, this is why you can't apply the night before, because I'm not going to be available to you to do 6 revisions in one evening. And this is why this is a months-long, weeks and months-long endeavor, typically speaking. I love reading. I love giving feedback and helping students improve their writing. The courses I teach actually through honors and uncommon reads are focused, typically speaking, on improving your writing about yourself. So be on the lookout for that if you're in need of an honors course, certainly. But just keeping in mind, there's a lot of tips that I can give, and you can see a lot of them here. About the best ways to approach writing. But I think the main thing to remember that what you're trying to do is you want those reviewers, right? Or that foundation or whomever it is that's funding that award to believe that you're the sure bet, that if they pick you, there's no way they're going to mess up, right? You are the sure bet. You're a great fit for exactly what they're seeking to fund. And if as part of, the application process for that particular award, there's an interview, you really want to make sure that you're coming off as someone that they really want to meet as well. Okay, so like I said, letters of recommendation. This is apparently the bee in my bonnet lately, but it's been building up, and it really, really is essential. Again, I can't tell you how many students I've been working with who are like, oh, I need faculty members to write my letters for graduate school. It's like, yes, because you're gonna go to graduate school and work with more faculty, right? Or just all sorts of different things. So just some tips, that I have. Again, I have much fancier looking, frankly, resources that are really, really nice and can help you kind of figure out from whatever starting point, maybe how you approach faculty. But the key to know is like, it's absolutely not too late. Relationships can be cultivated with faculty, and it really is a two-way street. They benefit from having you as part of their network, just as much as, you benefit from their mentorship and guidance as well. I was talking to a faculty member about a former student about 2 weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, that's actually a guy that I'm convinced I'm going to be working for one day. So I'll definitely write him any letter of recommendation he wants, right? Like anything he needs, because he's just a great guy, and, we're going to be colleagues, or I'm going to be working for him or something one day. So trust me, it really is a two-way street. faculty are more approachable than sometimes they seem in lectures too. But, and yeah, again, I'm also happy. With some students, I've even done role play on via Zoom, like about how to talk to faculty in office hours or what have you. So if you're not afraid of that whatsoever, like great, go for it. If you are someone who needs a little push with it, I'm here for you. I'm here to help that out too. But you do also want to be super strategic, right? So the courses that are the most important, right, to your future career goals, really those are the faculty you definitely have to be getting to know and talking to as well. The do's and don'ts, you know, on this side of the page, I was actually looking at it earlier and I was like, maybe I'll take this down, but I do think they're pretty relevant still. I can only think of 2 instances in my career where I have told students that I would not write them a letter of recommendation. And one was one that asked me about 7 hours before she needed it. So no, and I have to say, all of the things on this do little list right here, she did not do. And all of the things on the don't is really what she did. And it's funny because I was going through this list and hadn't even, you know, when I was writing it, however long ago I did, I wasn't thinking about that student necessarily, but today I was thinking about it and reflecting on that. And I was like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. So I was like, no, of course not. So yeah, you do want to approach them well in advance, 4 to 6 weeks. It does take time to write a good letter, and you want us to write you good, strong letters. So even if we're not, you know, going to get it to you potentially until maybe the last minute, give us the time. The other student that I turned down asked me with a little, I want to say about a 2-week window to go. I'd never written her a letter before, and I just did not have the time or anything I could rearrange to prioritize that letter for her. If I had maybe written her a letter previously and she asked me with 2 weeks, I might have been able, I probably would have said yes, truthfully, because I probably would have been able to take the letter that I had in the past and definitely, you know, take parts of it that were still relevant and just build on it, right, for what she was applying for now. But she hadn't, and I just didn't have the capacity at that time to produce not even a bad letter for her, let alone a good, strong letter for her. So I had to say no. So do keep that in mind. Even if they do say no for whatever reason it might be, still be grateful, be appreciative, and you know, maybe think too a little bit of like why it might have been that they said no. Do they really maybe kind of not have that much to say about you? That's where you want to talk about, you know, explaining to them why you've asked them specifically, and give the appropriate context too. So you need to actually tell your faculty a little bit, like, this is what the award I'm applying to is, and here's what it's about. Here's what it funds. Here's what it recognizes. Here's what its mission is, so that they can talk about you and their experiences with you in that context as well. Explain why you've asked, right? To remind them of presentations or projects you did in their class, or you know, things maybe that you did in the lab that could have potentially gone, you know, maybe weren't like a huge deal, but you know, you really saved like a grad student's behind or something one day with something, and you know, remind them of those kinds of things. But do ask significantly in advance. Every faculty member sort of in their own mind has a little bit of a window of what that means. And I know some faculty that even have sections on their private websites, a very formal how you request a letter from them. So everyone's going to be a little bit different, but you really can't go wrong with this 4 to 6 week window, because you know, you're going to give everybody enough time, no matter what their sort of feelings and approaches are about it. I don't want to say that you all need to go have 8 people to immediately be able to write you letters of recommendation. If you are really interested in Rhodes and going to Oxford for graduate school, then you do, and we will really talk about that. But generally, the first time I meet with a student about an award, one of our first conversations is, who are you thinking about having as your referees? Who are those people? Because one, we want to make sure we're giving them enough time, but we want to make sure it's the appropriate people that we're asking to, because some awards do have very specific individuals that they want for them. Okay, so here's where we're, like I said, we're going to get in the fun stuff. We're actually going to go ahead and talk about what fun, prestigious awards there are that you all might consider applying for. And so, yeah, this honestly, this slide is an excuse for me to show you a screenshot of where on the honors website you can find the information that I talk about and where I sort of live. It is not pretty. It is not a pretty website at all, I know, but it is functional and it is accurate, at least on my prestigious fellowship pages. So honors.ufl.edu, under current, just go to prestigious fellowships. But yeah, here's, like I said, I'm going to talk about some of these awards. If any of them pique your interest, like while we're talking about it, please feel free to unmute and ask some questions. This can definitely be a much more sort of informal part of this presentation. I do have the deadlines at the tops for these awards. You'll notice here with the Critical Languages Scholarship, the deadline is November 17th. For some deadlines, yes, like the next one, I'll go back to talk about CLS in a second, but the very next one I have here, you'll see we have a campus deadline. So that means if there's a campus deadline and a national deadline. A campus deadline means that that award either requires you to be selected and nominated / endorsed by the university, or it just means that we have a particular process based on the way this award functions and works and what it sort of asks of me, frankly, that requires you to do like an interview or feedback session officially with a review panel here locally before you submit to the national competition. So just so you know when you see those two differences there. CLS I do have up here first. The first few awards I'm going to talk about, I actually will mention that you can apply to at any time as an undergraduate or graduate student. They're not specific to what year you're in school. So I just kind of wanted to get those up there for everybody. But this one I put first because you do only have just ever so slightly over a month to apply for it. It is really neat. It is a summer abroad. And you essentially go fully funded for 8 to 10 weeks and you learn a critical language. Hannah's here in this photo. She was actually in one of the earlier photos that I showed as well. And she actually was a biology and history major. She had zero experience with the Korean language whatsoever. She actually had a French minor, and she won the Critical Languages Scholarship between her junior and senior year and went to South Korea and did an immersive Korean language program. She had done some really interesting research in space botany for NASA at one point, and South Korea is really building up their space program in these interesting, relevant ways. And so she was able to talk about that and why learning Korean would be to her benefit, you know, doing this type of research. So you want to talk about like if anybody can really, you know, write an essay to like, there's no one fit, right? It just needs to make sense. So she wrote a really, really compelling argument for why she should be invested in by the State Department to go spend a summer on their dime in South Korea learning Korean. But yeah, there are 15 languages. Most of them do not, and I should say they are critical languages. So we are not talking about Spanish or French here, but they are considered critical languages. Swahili's on there, Urdu, Arabic, obviously Korean, Russian. I can't think of the others off the top of my head, but lots of languages. Yeah, so really, really good award there. The Boren Award is very similar, but with two really, really distinct, I mean, there's several differences, but ultimately there's two really distinct differences to know about right up front. And that is the Critical Languages Scholarship just funds one summer. But the Boren Scholarship really wants you to go and do a long-term study abroad experience. So either a semester or a year, even an academic year. For those who are in STEM, however, they do have a STEM exception where they will fund you for 8 to 12 weeks in the summer months to go do critical language study. So that is kind of a nice exception to know. And Rayan, who's pictured here from last year, won with that STEM exception.
And he's one of their colleagues, one of their peers, the URSP program.
Yeah, he and I have worked together on several awards now at this point. Rayan's in the pipeline. He knows exactly what he's looking for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, due to COVID, he did not get to go to Tajikistan last summer, but we're hoping next summer they are allowing that deferral, and we'll see where we are, right? But we have, Nico here, who's hoping to go study Polish. Raphael's looking to study Portuguese, though in Mozambique specifically, which is very interesting. So it is, again, for critical language study, but also, again, any year level that you are in school, undergraduate and graduate. And the difference here is that they're not just looking at 15 languages, they're kind of looking at everything. French included if you're doing it, I think, in Africa specifically, and even Spanish if you're at already a very advanced degree of Spanish knowledge. But anyway, getting too in the weeds there. The other really distinct difference I will say between Boren and CLS is that there is a federal service requirement. So if you win Boren, what's really great actually is they require you to then work for the federal government for a minimum of 1 year. Anywhere in federal government counts for this, right? So this could be research. This could be a number of areas. You don't have to be directly using that language that they funded you to go learn, on your year abroad. But it is something to be aware of because you do have that requirement to do that upon graduation. Whereas CLS is like, have a great summer. We hope you continue to use the language. So really good stuff to know about. As you can see here, yeah, UF had a banner year with Boren last year. We doubled the top amount of students that we ever had win that award, and hope to continue capitalizing on it, especially through the STEM exception students. That would be really good to see. And yeah, so research experience for undergraduates, my assumption is you're all somewhat familiar with this, but more or less, you can go to research facilities all around the US, sometimes the world. I had a student at my past institution who won an REU to go do this research at the University of Wisconsin, and kind of last minute, they were like, hey, sort of the research project has changed. We'd still love you to come, but it would actually now be in Iceland for the summer. Is that okay? And of course she was like, yeah, let's go to Iceland. So that was really awesome for her. But there are, a number of opportunities. And I will say the benefits for these vary. Generally, they are going to give you a stipend. Most of the time, these are actually at other institutions, though again, the research sites can vary from time to time. So while they're at other colleges and institutions, sometimes, they will provide you housing, but maybe that's an empty, dorm room on campus housing just to yourself for the summer. And they are generally summer in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 weeks. It is mostly STEM positions and STEM research, but there are also some positions in research policy making as well as the social sciences as well. The deadlines vary. Generally, most of them are in early spring. There are from time to time some in December. So while their website isn't totally updated right now, you might want to start looking because they do just post information as the different colleges kind of send it to them.
And I'm going to do a commercial.
Go for it.
October 21st at 4 o'clock, the Center for Undergraduate Research Board of Students are putting on a workshop specifically on summer research experiences, including the NSF and DOE. So tune in for that when it's on our page.
I definitely do, because that'll be a much deeper dive than I'm doing on these right now.
Well, they get students who've actually gone and done these, present them. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's really great. And I mean, I have to say too, when we have applicants for Goldwater, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and some of you may still be considering, students who have had REUs are particularly wonderful for that because they have really multiple research projects to talk about, which is really nice. Not a prerequisite for Goldwater by any means, but nice. This is also a really cool opportunity. So the DOD Rise, so the first D in DOD there stands for Deutschland. So that's DOD is all in German, but basically it's an academic exchange program. And the Rise program is basically an REU, but in Germany. So it's a research internship, again, fully funded. They give you a stipend. German language is not required. generally speaking, for almost all of the research labs, English is the common language there. But this is a really, really exciting, extremely prestigious experience. Dodd also has a lot of other awards, but the ones that would be relevant for y'all right now, kind of at the year that you're in, this would be now. So this would actually, this upcoming summer would be the last summer that you would be eligible for Dodd. So that's good to know. And they have a really short application open period. It's November 1st through December 15th. You can take a look at a lot of things on their website right now, but you can't actually start like digging into the application. Again, though, remembering that letters of recommendation thing, if you are interested in applying for this, maybe just give your recommenders a heads up now. Like, you know, hey, I'm considering applying for this, but I don't know the exact research positions available yet because they won't be posted till November. But just, you know, would you be interested in writing a letter for me? Because it is such a small window that those are open. All right, Goldwater, which I also mentioned. This is Hannah again here on the left in this picture. So yeah, Hannah is one of those multi-award winners, CLS and Goldwater. We also endorsed her for the Marshall Scholarship. I mean, she had a lot really in the time she was with us here at UF. Actually, she's still at UF. She's a med student now, but you know, when she was an undergraduate, she was doing quite a lot. Campus deadline for this is November 9th, so it is really pretty rapidly coming up. It is only open to second and third year students, and the Goldwater Scholarship is essentially the most storied and prestigious award recognizing undergraduate research in STEM. The Goldwater is a big deal. So if you are eager to have a research career in the STEM fields, please absolutely consider applying for this. This is a really wonderful award. Keshav here, who hopefully you all also know.
Yep, he's another one of ours, isn't he? Nice.
Yeah, he is. And he, I actually met him in person, of course, at this presentation that we did last year. And yeah, Keshav is also definitely now, we're talking, you know, about him applying next year to Churchill and Rhodes and Gates, Cambridge, and lots of different things as well. Yeah, because he's just only been building upwards from winning his Goldwater. But
Can I
yeah,
ask a quick question?
Oh yeah, please do.
When it says the campus deadline is November 9th, does that mean that we have to have all our recommenders have like a finished letter of recommendation by that date?
It does, yeah. So this is one that you would kind of want to get on if you're interested, talking to them. And, you know, again, ideally, if they've written you a letter for something before, the timeline's not, you know, probably as difficult. But yeah, you are kind of, yeah, close to that window for sure. But definitely good to see. The other thing I will say about Goldwater, every award does something functional wise with how you apply and systematically on their website really differently. Goldwater has this thing called a pre-application. It will take you no more than 10 minutes to fill out the pre-application. But once you do that, it has to get approved by me, and I usually do them within a few hours, but it has to get approved. And then you get to actually see the real application that is actually due on November 9th. So, you know, also just fill out the pre-app. If you're like, oh, this is too much, I don't have the time by November 9th, totally fine once you see, you know, again, that full application, but just do the pre-app. It's super easy. It won't take much of your time, and it'll help you kind of understand like, okay, do I still have time to do this? It also helps you kind of determine, am I eligible? Is this really a good fit for me? You know, just kind of based off the questions they ask too. It's easy, but very telling. So definitely fill that out quickly. And whoever you list as your recommenders in that pre-app, they do not get an email. That's the other thing. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to fill it out. I got to talk to my recommenders first. You can fill it out and we can change the recommenders later. It's totally fine. They don't get notified that you talked about them in your pre-application.
Thank you.
Truman, oh yeah, go ahead. Another
question.
No,
I just said thank you.
Oh, well, you are very welcome. Thank you. Truman has the same campus deadline. This is for students interested in going into graduate school and having careers in public service. Very broadly defined public service, right? Like you want to work for an entity whose website ends in .gov one day or .edu. I mean, really very broadly defined. So this is a really great award, but again, it is only open to third year students. So this is only your window of time to actually apply for this one. It funds graduate school. They say, I think their award specifically funds about $30,000 of graduate school. Grad school is expensive, so that sometimes isn't enough, but they have partnerships with over 80 different graduate programs that will actually, if you're a Truman winner, will give the rest of, they'll just waive the rest of the tuition costs for the time of the graduate program. So it's almost like getting grad school totally for free. So good to know, and something to consider applying. For this weirdo application, you actually have to email me and tell me that you want to apply, because then I have to go and give them your name and email address on my end for you to see the application. So again, please let me know very soon if you're interested. Absolutely, totally appropriate if in the end you look at that application and go, nope, don't have time for this, and don't end up applying. That's totally fine too. I'd rather you see and be able to assess, you know, what you really have the ability.
Can I ask one more quick question?
Sure.
How many letters of recommendation are due for the campus deadline for Goldwater and Truman?
All of them, which would be 3 each. Yeah.
Okay.
3 each. And Truman, if you're interested in that one, let me know soon, because I also have a little sort of email of just some tips and tricks with Truman. Because the letter writers actually have to match up to certain sections of the application that you write about. So it's, again, good to just know that ahead of time. So yeah, just let me know if you want access to that, and I'll, you know, give you access to the application and send you that kind of intro email for that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the two most odd, I think, awards for how you apply. The other one that's only, again, relevant right now is the Beinecke Scholarship. This is for students looking to pursue graduate degrees in the arts, social sciences, and humanities. So finally, one not for the STEM folks, I suppose. It's really great. It's graduate funding as well as transition funding. So to help you move to maybe wherever you're doing your graduate school, some funding related to that. And really it is seeking to fund people in those fields who also just have a documented history of need-based financial aid. And of course, need-based financial aid can come in many, many forms. But we are at UF only allowed to actually endorse one student a year for this award. While that sounds very competitive, last year we had 0 people apply to be endorsed. So we endorsed 0 people for it. So yeah, it's amazing how some of these just, you know, really do go to waste. So yet again, cannot be successful even at the UF endorsement level if you don't apply, right? So so please definitely do. Udall is one of my favorite awards. It's funny, here in the middle, I have the picture of Kinsey, who's a student I worked with at my previous institution, though Lacey here actually she is a UF student and was an honorable mention for the Udall last year. I should probably flip those maybe a little bit, but Lacey was also one of our students that we endorsed for Truman last year too. Udall is also open to second and third year students. Again, we're limited to 4 endorsements. We typically never have even 4 people applying. So if this is a fit for you, you have a really good shot of getting that endorsement. Granted, if you totally don't meet the fit of the award whatsoever, we're not going to endorse you. But again, you know, I don't want anyone who's like, oh, that sounds really cool, but maybe I shouldn't, you know, I'm nervous, I won't ever make it kind of thing. Realistically, it's very possible that you will. So so if it is of interest to you, do please apply. Udall is mostly what I see here at UF is students looking in environmental science, environmental engineering, street conservation, wildlife studies, anything really to do with the environment, then it's definitely a good award. to apply to. But it also actually will fund Native Americans who have an interest in tribal policy and tribal, and when I say policy, I mean governance, as well as tribal healthcare policy. So if any of you are Indigenous or have friends who are, please have them contact me, because that's a whole separate endorsement process for this. And again, this is one of those awards where GPA is not necessarily that critical of a factor. So it's good to know too. So these are the awards I kind of just want to talk to you about. The ones I mentioned at kind of the start of this, we've just finally submitted them all, you know, like big whoosh, they're all now off to be reviewed by the powers that be at these individual foundations. These are the things that, again, you know, you might be interested in applying for, say, a Beinecke and Truman this year, and that's great. But there will hardly be a pause for breath after you find out the result of that before you're working on your Rhodes application or your Mitchell or your Fulbright application. The Fulbright application opens like end of March or April 1st or something like that. And we just had the deadline. And I can tell you there are people who were working from that April 1st day all the way to now, right? Again, going through that really important revision process. So they are definitely time consuming, but really great awards. The ones that I have an asterisk by here just indicate ones that will have a campus deadline. And so that is important to be aware of. Rhodes funds graduate studies specifically at Oxford University. So if you're interested in studying in the UK and you want to go to Oxford, let's talk about Rhodes. If you want to go and study in the UK, but maybe Oxford is or is not one of the schools you're interested in, let's talk about the Marshall. Marshall's a 2-year award that actually funds you to go abroad and do 2 graduate degrees at UK institutions. Graduate degrees in the UK, for the most part, for the record, are only 1 year. Often here in the States, and I'm talking about masters, I should say. You know, often here in the States, they're typically 2 years, but they are 1 year degrees in the United Kingdom. And so Marshall will pay you to do 2 of them. We actually currently have a Marshall Scholar in his first year at the University of Cambridge right now. And I can't think maybe his second year, he's going to go to King's College London for his second, but I could be misremembering that. The Mitchell actually funds you to do graduate studies specifically in Ireland. So that's I think there's 15 universities in Ireland, Ireland and North Ireland. So that's that award. Anybody interested in conflict and peace studies, that's the island to do that on. So that's really common reason people would apply to Mitchell, as well as a few other awards I could rattle off my brain here too, but we'll keep going. Churchill, back to my STEM folks. Churchill is an award. Again, we are only able to nominate 2 people for the Churchill each year, but we are the only school in Florida that is actually eligible to nominate people for the Churchill Award. Also a really, really big deal. There's only about 110 institutions that are allowed to put people forward for the Churchill. So again, the pool is actually a lot smaller than you maybe think it is, but that actually will fund a graduate degree in STEM at Cambridge. So again, another really great award if you're interested in specifically going to Cambridge for a graduate program and in STEM, apply for Churchill. Obviously, if you're applying for Churchill, we're totally going to have you apply for Gates Cambridge too, because that is also funds a graduate degree at Cambridge. But anybody at any institution can apply for that, and it doesn't require an endorsement. But again, we help everybody with those applications, regardless of if they require endorsement or not. There is a Fulbright for everyone. That is what I will say about the Fulbright US student program. So most of their grants are actually for you to go teach English abroad for a year. I want to say in about 80 different countries. In about 140 different countries, you can go and conduct research or again, do a graduate degree. Right now, the only winner for Fulbright that we actually had that was allowed to leave the United States because of the pandemic and go actually start her Fulbright is because she is doing a graduate program in the Netherlands, and Fulbright is completely funding her 2-year graduate program in the Netherlands. And the Netherlands is like only one of 4 countries that are allowing Americans in at the moment. So she got to go on her Fulbright, which is very exciting. Lots of other folks waiting in the wings. Hopefully starting January 1st, they'll start to be able to go to the countries where they're either doing research. Maya Harley, who I know was really involved with the Center for Undergraduate Research, she's hoping to go to Turkey and do the research that she was funded through Fulbright to do. We have some students going to Germany, some teaching English in Colombia, Peru, can't remember all of them off the top of my head from last year's winners, but there is truthfully a Fulbright for everyone. The research you propose, you can go do it at a lab, you can go do it entirely independently, and again, in just about 140 countries. So really great program. And through it also, you can apply to do graduate programs. So the students that we endorsed for Marshall this year, both of them are also applying for Fulbright because the outcome would be that they would still get the same graduate program funded. So for that, it's kind of just, spreading the scholarships that they're looking for. Hopefully, if you're also thinking of applying to graduate school in STEM, you're looking at NSF GRFP. That is a really, really well-known award that funds graduate study for any of the NSF groups. Their deadlines are all next week, so I'm still revising last-minute statements for several students for that. Knight Hennessy Scholars is actually a really interesting award. It's very similar to the Rhodes, except that it's at Stanford University. So any graduate program, including medical school or law school, actually, if you're interested in going to that, seriously attending Stanford University, definitely worth applying to Knight Hennessy Scholars as well. Not only will they fund the degree itself, but they send you to do tons of domestic and international travel during your time with them, bring in tons of speakers, really, really cool. And then
Have we ever gotten one of those?
Knight Hennessy is only 2 years old. So
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, last year I know a student who applied and didn't get it, but I just wondered if we had a history of that. And I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's a young award. Some of them are younger. But one of the things that is really great about Knight Hennessy, not that this isn't the case for, every other award, but one of the things that's particularly great about it is that students from any country can apply. So US citizenship is not a prerequisite like it often is for some awards. So it's a good one to consider there. And then the Soros Scholarship for New Americans, this is a really also very cool award, funds graduate school at any graduate program, MBAs, MDs, law school, masters, PhDs, combined masters, PhDs, you name it, any graduate program in the United States. And they have 2 definitions for what they consider new Americans. I would encourage you, if you think you may be under sort of, the definition of what a new American might be, whether you are the first in your family to have citizenship in this country. Again, there's a few different criteria that they have. DACA is usually in there as well. This is a really, really wonderful award too. And again, widely funds some things. These are just, I should always explain the pictures. I sometimes forget to, but these 3 students, again, are from a previous institution, but they're really great. I was just talking to the one on the right yesterday, actually. She now is a policy director for a US senator, which is great. But this is, her best friend on the left. She was a Schwartzman Scholar. Nagoni, who's in the center, he was a Rhodes Scholar. And then Erin here on the right, the one I was talking to yesterday, she actually won a Marshall, a Schwartzman, and a Fulbright in the same year. So she had to pick which one she wanted, and she chose the Marshall ultimately. But really great students, very frankly normal human beings. They are, super.
Well, that leaves this group out.
Yeah. you know, they really are. They're great. They're very dedicated to what they do, but they are truthfully normal people, you know, and really wonderful to talk to. So these are kind of just a list of next steps to think about. There's my email address again. I'm happy to go back and talk about any award, or, you know, if there's one on here, because this was definitely just a very, very sort of, you know, snippet of them. I'm happy to talk to you about any awards you might be interested in that I also didn't mention. I should mention, you know, I told you about the website earlier. The awards on that website are not the only awards that I work with. I tend to work with a lot more, and I'm more than happy to work with you on anything you bring me. I have a really, really great, network of fellowship advisors all throughout the US. And so even if it's a word I'm not familiar with and haven't worked with before, I definitely know people who have. So I can always talk to you if you find something, even if I'm not familiar with it. Or, you know, I'm happy to read statements of things as well. For, again, you know, even the awards that we didn't necessarily talk about today. I will be honest, sometimes like the NSF GRFP ones, those are a bit tricky for me to review because I don't have this specialty area of everybody's field. But, you know, I'm usually good about like, okay, let's go talk to this person and get them to review it, right? So we will always find you the right people to get to.
And if anybody's going to do the NSF, that you would start the summer before your senior year.
Yes.
And you should tell me, because we help at the moment. I guess I'm working on 3 of them.
That makes sense because they're all due next week.
So now we're in like the 8th iteration of them, right? So, yeah, so if you guys, when you get to that point, talk to me and I can put you in, talk to me before you leave at the end of this year, because there are things I want you to know before you take off or off for the summer.
Yeah, and I should say too, I do some summer workshops, particularly related to writing. They're not classes, so they're not necessarily credit-based. And I'm used to doing things through Zoom. You know, most students are not in Gainesville in the summer, even during the before times. So I do a lot of workshops. I do a lot of talks like these through Zoom. I do tons of one-on-one meetings. Almost my summer is exclusively spent on Zoom anyway. So doing this is not new to me. So definitely, you know, look to participate in those if you're interested in Fulbright, Rhodes. Because even if, I will say, like the Rhodes, is a great example. Their application doesn't open until July 1st, but we start working on your Rhodes application in April at the latest, because you can't put together a great Rhodes application in 3 months. It's just not possible. And that's how long they would give you. So we are looking at a much, much longer term sort of experience with those. Yeah, but that's all, you know, kind of what we're talking about here too, right? Progress towards the long-term goals. Like I was talking about before, take the courses that are relevant, that are going to challenge you, even though they might be really hard. Or it's a professor, you know, with whom their research perfectly aligns with what you want to do. Take courses that are going to be self-serving to you, even if they're not on your major maps, right? Plan when you're going to study abroad. So if you're thinking about, you know, applying for Boren, for example, we definitely want to think through, because there's some really intricate details of what kind of programs qualify and when. So we want to plan that out additionally as well. I can't harp on talking to faculty. I don't know about you, Dr. Donnelly, but office hours are really extra lonely now. They often, you know, always are earlier. We're just waiting for students to come along, but now doing it through Zoom. Yeah.
So it occurred to me that, and they may have questions, but I think it would be helpful to them to take this opportunity to introduce themselves to you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can do a video, do it, because then if you follow up with Dr. Medley, she'll have seen you, okay?
I know who you are, yes.
So
Yeah,
Garrett, in addition to your name, how about your major and maybe what you might be interested in, okay? So, okay, I can see Alicia now. So you want to go, Alicia?
All right. Hi. So my name is Alicia. I'm a biochemistry and anthropology double major. Currently in the process of applying for a health disparities minor. And I think I emailed you and you replied, but yeah, so I'm interested in the Dodd, the Fulbright,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and possibly I think the Marshall Scholarship. I don't remember all the names. Yeah,
No,
but I'm
that's
interested
okay.
in studying. Yeah, I'm interested in studying in at Oxford or Cambridge University for a graduate school.
Fantastic.
And like
Happy to hear that.
yeah, like Dr. Donnelly knows, I don't know if I'm going to do an MD, PhD, an MD or a PhD yet. So
Okay. Or maybe both.
Part of our goal is to get Alicia out of the country.
Okay. Good.
yeah.
It's one of our goals.
Good.
Okay. So Garrett, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Dr. Donnelly. So my name's Garrett Kendris. I'm a third year material science and engineering student. I can't show my video right now because I'm actually at work. So this kind of leads into what my main
Totally
question
okay.
is. I'm doing a co-op, an engineering co-op with Anheuser-Busch. I've been there since June. We'll be there through December. So I'm currently only taking one class over the semester, which will push my graduation date back a semester. So my two questions that I kind of want to get out of this chat are, first, how will the later graduation date impact kind of my timeline? And then second, how does work experience, because like you talked about leadership project, I feel like I'm doing a lot of the same things as research, but I'm in an industry setting. So it's not the same as research. How does that compare? And like, would that lead me to go down different avenues or look for different opportunities?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I mean, obviously everything's very individualized to kind of what will your status be when you know, kind of are back full time, right? Like how many semesters you maybe have to go, things like that. But I mean, by no means is a co-op going to render you ineligible for anything. In fact, one of our Marshall and Fulbright applicants just this year that I was working with did a full year co-op as well. So she also pushed back, you know, her graduation and is, you know, successfully, hopefully, applying for these types of things too. So, yeah, but you know, if you're in a position where you might come back and have 3 semesters left, well, you could be potentially a Truman still or a Goldwater or what have you. You know, we'll talk about it kind of with what your specific graduation plans and goals are. But yeah, also absolutely doing co-ops is wonderful because you get a lot of responsibility. It's definitely not just your regular run-of-the-mill internship. Like you are basically an employee for Anheuser-Busch right now, and that's really awesome, and getting a ton of experience. So no, co-ops are really, really wonderful things. You know, it's kind of almost like having 2 internships and an REU, but they're all in one, you know, sort of place. So really, really great. Glad to hear it. Thanks for sharing, Garrett.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Mohammed, you want to go next?
Did you have a second one, Garrett?
Oh, I thought there were 2. Sorry.
Oh, maybe that was
Sorry?
2. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Thank you.
All right,
okay.
sorry about that.
Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself, Ryan?
I'm a computer science junior interested in Dodd, Rise, and Goldwater.
Great. That's fantastic. Have you been doing research?
Yes.
Great, great. Love to hear it. Nice. Actually, Ryan, I feel like maybe you already did the pre-app for Goldwater, or maybe we've been.
Yes, I sent
Your
the
name
pre-app.
is familiar. Okay, great. Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mohammed.
Hey, I'm Mohammed. I'm a math major, but I'm also minoring in electrical engineering. And a lot of the research I've been involved in is very like interdisciplinary. So the main thing I'm interested in is trying to find either national or international research opportunities and funding opportunities to do research that's like on the border of a lot of different fields. Like right now, the research that I'm working on is kind of on the border of neuroscience, math, and engineering. And then this past summer, I was supposed to go to France to do a research on building like physical electrical models of the brain and modeling it mathematically, but that didn't work out obviously because of coronavirus, but
Yeah.
I really am interested in a lot of the opportunities that you brought up. Particularly, I'd never heard of the DOD internship in Germany, but that looks really cool because I know there's a lot of really big universities in Germany that do research on that kind of stuff. That like I had reached out to when I was applying to previous international research abroad opportunities. So I would definitely like to apply to that. And then I was also looking at the Goldwater and then the different RUs to apply to this semester.
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely. We will get you internationally researching some way somehow.
I hope so.
I have to admit, like I totally applied for Dodd Rise. That's great. But you know, one of the things, even thinking about Fulbright, it sounds like the research that you've been doing and the connections you've been making, even though, you know, they've maybe been following through or not working out, that can really help you actually in the end put together like a really amazing Fulbright application, for example. Because when you do a Fulbright application for research, it's totally self-designed. It's like, I want to go to this place and do this research with this person. So keep those connections, you know, they just have to say like, yeah, if he wins it, we'll do that research together. You know,
Really?
like there's not really much that on the other end in country they have to do. So yeah, like, you know, maintain those connections, even though they aren't working out now, we can definitely try to, you know, get something out of them in the future for you, for sure.
That's really cool. I didn't know that you actually like had to say what you wanted to do research in for the Fulbright, because there is like a research project I've had in mind for something like I really want to work on after I graduate towards graduate school, and I was kind of saving it for when I apply for the GRFP, for the NSF, but I definitely want to use that for the Fulbright because
that sounds great.
I have a lot of connections to already working there.
That's right. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I will say GRFP, and this is, you know, for the good of the order here, not just for Mohammed, but there are, you got to be a little careful with GRFP, I guess is the advice I would give, because they have really specific instances of how many times you can apply. And it's based on the first time that you apply. So nobody can ever apply more than twice, I guess is one thing to say. But sometimes you apply at one point and that's it. That's, you know, or you apply and you only get funding for a year, but then you later want to go and do a PhD and now you can apply for GRFP again. Like there's all these crazy combinations of scenarios. So that's just one thing I do kind of like to put out there. I actually, like, I hate this, but I tend to talk more people out of applying for GRFP than I do help them with GRFP applications that I see to the end, because I'll be like, okay, this sounds great, but this is what this will mean in the future. Do you want that option or not? And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm not going to apply right now. So that's, you know, part of this too, is to kind of think of the long game of things. So yeah, if we can, you know, get you particularly, Mohammed, you know, accomplish some of these goals you have in other ways and maybe save the GRFP for like 5 years of funding for something later.
That makes more sense.
Yeah,
that definitely makes. I actually had no.
A lot more money in the long run. Yeah. So very cool. Yeah. Well, one of the things I guess. Oh, sure. Please go ahead.
My bad. Go ahead.
No, I was kind of just going to rattle a little bit more about some next steps, but I'd rather answer your questions.
I was just going to ask, I know a lot of these towards the end, you mentioned a few fellowships that were specifically for after graduation. If you're planning on doing some kind of gap year between graduation and applying to graduate school, would you apply for these before the gap year and then ask for some kind of extension, or would you want to apply for them after your gap year?
Classic, it depends answer. For most of them, they're not going to allow you a deferral. Because usually, you know, again, when you think of how prestigious there's like thousands of people wanting to take that spot, right? That you're like, can I just defer to go read some, you know, fiction for a year and hang out, right? So some of them, most of them probably not. So you do definitely want to do it. But I think what's important for a lot of these awards to keep in mind is you are applying for them an entire year before you would actually be doing these experiences. And actually for some of the Fulbright grants, like 18 months before you'd be going with them. So it's really, really, really far in advance. It takes a lot of forward thinking. And so obviously a lot of things can come up in between now and then, different opportunities that you want to pursue, you know, instead, and that's okay. There's, again, thousands of people waiting behind you who are like, I will take their spot if they don't want to do it anymore, right? Totally fine. But yeah, we will put the time in when the time, you know, is right. And like I said, I do work with alumni. So you know, that you don't lose, you know, these resources by any means when you graduate. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Any of you guys remember Donnelly's rule about application? Alicia, Mohammed, you remember?
I do not, Dr. Donnelly. I remember you talking about it.
If it's free to
I remember you
apply,
saying,
if it's free to apply, you do it. It's like the slide that said 100% failure rate if you don't apply, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So if it's free to apply, you do it, right?
Yeah, you absolutely
We're
do.
going to chat later about that whole year off thing, okay? We'll talk about that
Be a
later.
productive year off, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Productive
okay,
indeed.
just saying.
Yeah.
So I
Year
can't
off doesn't.
camp out of my car for a whole year.
Well, Mohammed and I are going to Zion in, where are we going? Bryce Canyon, right? When he
Yes, we
graduates.
are. Yep, as soon as I
Nice.
graduate.
Yeah, we're going on a trip.
That'll be a great trip.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take a full year for that trip.
No.
Having lived in that part of
It's going to be the
country
summer
before.
before he goes and keeps and is a grown up.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
Dr. Medley?
Mhm.
I have
Feel
another
free,
question.
you're all welcome to call me Kelly, by the way. That's totally okay.
All right, thank you. Anyway, so what I was wondering is, since I'm kind of in a unique circumstance of taking the semester off, and I feel like I've done 2 semesters of research before this, but obviously I'm not doing it currently. Is there anything I should focus on? And I guess this is also a question for you, Dr. Donnelly, when I get back to campus, to kind of make myself more competitive for these awards and get back into the swing of, I guess, like in the college path, since it's kind of a different lifestyle, I guess.
The academic mindset.
Yes, exactly. It's very different than working a 8 to 5 job. Then
It is, yeah. My advice, just, you know, kind of on like a sort of, you know, personal like wellness level, is hopefully, you know, this year has also taught you a little bit about, you know, some work-life balance that you can, you know, relay into your academic life coming back. Hopefully, you know, those kinds of skills and organizing your time and, you know, work hard, play hard are something that you can continue to take advantage of. I think, you know, and I would definitely say from everything you've just mentioned to me here in brief about that co-op, it sounds like you are not going to have a hard time whatsoever getting, you know, to talk about relevant opportunities from that in these types of applications by any means. I think co-ops are wonderful. I encourage everyone to do them if they're relevant and have the opportunity to. Because honestly, now it's just extra, it's almost like you get an extra year of application, you know, material ahead of kind of everybody else in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
And the other thing I would add is if you feel like, you know, you're going to be off a semester or something, based on what you've done, and, you know, you have to look at it, but, you know, Dr. Medley said that you want to make sure that you've got some leadership, something to show for that. So, you know, that might be something you can do, you know, find a student organization or something that, you know, speaks to you, and maybe, unless you're, you know, perhaps you've already done that, but that's something else you might consider.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I had 2 questions.
Sure.
So one is about recommendations. So I've done what you suggested. I've gone to office hours. For one professor, I've had him for a whole year. I went to his office hours every week, and when I asked him for a recommendation, he never emailed me back. And I spent a lot of time. I did really well in his class. It was organic chemistry. There was only 30 students, but he's kind of the unapproachable person. So what happens when you have and like work towards making a relationship and it doesn't?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's what dating is like too. So that's not just an academic sort of, lesson there, but a personal one maybe too. But seriously, Alicia, on a really serious note, you did put in the work and that was good. And I don't actually think that work is probably lost. But what I can tell you, because I did hear you say, I emailed him asking him for a letter of recommendation. Oh my gosh, do you know how easy it is for people to lose emails or even, I'll be honest, say no to an email, but not be able to say no to you through a Zoom screen or when you're sitting there in their office. It's a lot easier to say no when you're not saying it to somebody's face, especially if they're tired, they're overwhelmed. I mean, Dr. Donnelly can, probably also, talk about how we've more or less, looked at teaching classes now 3 different ways in the period of about 8 months. Like it totally changes, how we have to teach. And so it's like we've reinvented our jobs like 3 times in 8 months. So a lot of us are tired right now, but that doesn't mean, we're not here for you and to keep trying. I would say reapproach him during office hours. Realistically, reapproach him during office hours. Part of what I said in that advice too is give them the opportunity to say no, but it doesn't sound like he said no. It just sounds like he didn't reply. I know it's hard. I know it's awkward. And like I said, I'm totally like, if you want to meet and do some like role play with that, I can, pretend to be that professor as well. That's totally fine.
The thing is, he was my professor last year, so I have no way of contacting him except for email.
You're one of the smart ones. You should be able to figure out how to contact the person.
Yeah, I could stalk him like I do with a lot of people and figure out his
You
Zoom.
could stalk them. If they are teaching, they have office hours. If they have office hours, there's some really nice person in that main office who knows what their office hours are, or they're posted.
Yeah, my friend Alex knows it's taking his graduate class, so technically he could tell me.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Don't tell me you can't find something out that's easy. Okay, especially don't say that in front of the lady who's in charge of the high prestige scholarships.
Yes. One of the 4 criteria of the Rhodes Scholarship is that when you are faced with barriers, you find, or, challenges, you find ways to continue on towards your goal. So make sure, you're proving that, in this sort of example as well. But no, there are ways. And Alicia, sometimes there are just going to be people that are going to ghost you too. You try a few more times in a few different ways, before we kind of just assume, okay, that's what happened. But going to office hours, and figuring them out, there are a few different ways, like Dr. Donnelly said, that you can figure out what those office hours are in any time.
You can call. You're not going to get
the department.
You're going to get voicemail. And you can say, hi, Dr. So-and-so. I thought I'd follow up on the email I sent you, wondering if we could set up a meeting to talk, have a few minutes about some applications I make. So then you haven't said, hey, chump, you didn't email me. But you've said, I'm just following up on the email, and you ask for something. You don't say, hey, you ask for something. Ask is going to be, can we set up, would it be possible at your convenience to set up a Zoom meeting to have a meeting about some applications, that kind of thing.
It's also much easier if someone emails me and are like, hey, do you have office hours this week? When are they? I'm like, copy, paste. Yes, like that's a great email. I can like quickly, get through in my list of a bajillion to reply to. Like that one's fine. No, I have to think about like, oh, letter of recommendation. Can't I? Let me move on and I'll think about this at a later time. And now it's lost, right? Like ask the simple stuff and then ask for the hard stuff in person.
Yeah, it used to be easier. I remember
Yeah.
like last year, I would just go to everyone's offices. And,
Yeah, yeah, much
Hey,
easier.
you're ahead of most of your peers because a lot of people are still afraid to do even that. So at least take heart there.
okay, and I had one more question. I don't know if,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, so I think I wrote in my email that I don't have any interaction with the PI. He doesn't has pretty
Oh
much,
yeah, you're that email.
yeah,
Yes.
he has zero interaction with almost everyone.
Mhm.
I know I'm working on a postdoc, but our lab manager, he is an assistant professor.
Oh,
Would it be
great.
okay to get a recommendation from him?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That's yeah, definitely okay. Dr. Donnelly, do you have from the perspective of a faculty member, like advice on, because this is something that's common, right? And I think everybody has to approach it in a little bit of a different way. But if you're an undergraduate and you're mainly assigned to a graduate student or a postdoc in whatever your research team is, and hardly ever interact with the PI, what is kind of
Yeah, so Alicia knows that the Donnelly rule is they have to fill out a form that the faculty member is supposed to sign, and on that form it says how often are they going to meet with the student.
Ah,
They have to hold the faculty accountable to meeting with the students.
yeah. I'm learning all these Donnelly rules. I like them.
Yeah, I have rules. And so I'm guessing that Alicia doesn't have one of those signed by that person.
I do have it signed by that person, but his secretary gives it to him and he signs it without looking, I'm pretty sure.
See that, and see, that's not my favorite placement, but
Right.
if you're in it, you make the best of it. And as long as you got a postdoc or somebody's got Dr. So-and-so in their name, okay? But I would, since the dude isn't meeting with you, I don't see why you couldn't send him, if it's a him, a monthly update on your progress.
Mhm.
And say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I'm really learning a lot and I really appreciate working with Dr. So-and-so. And I thought I'd give you an update on where we are. And, maybe just once a month you touch base.
That is very good advice. And to be
And
honest,
you're not
maybe the
asking
first
them
month
to
they're going to not do anything with
Yeah,
it.
you're
but
not
they will
asking them to
start
do anything. You're just
Mhm.
reminding them, hey, I'm out here.
Mhm. I'm contributing to your research.
Right.
Yep.
So you can send that email without asking for them to do anything, but you're still letting them know that you're working on their stuff. And
Yep, I like that
how
strategy.
appreciate their graduate student or postdoc or whatever it is, right?
Mhm. Yep. In this situation, I know with Alicia, the qualifier for who she has to get the letter from is not a postdoc, unfortunately.
Yeah, you got to get well.
But yeah. But that assistant professor totally works.
So the secretary will probably write a letter and he'll sign it.
True. Yeah, that I said maybe the PI and the postdoc could collaborate.
Yeah. So what you can do, Alicia, okay, here's another, okay. You can ask, okay, first of all, when you email and ask for the letter again, or a Zoom meeting to discuss the letter, you make sure every email you copy that person who answers, the secretary person, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You copy them, right? And then you say, would it be helpful to you if I sent you a draft letter? And then you write your own letter, you put down what you want this person to say, and chances are the secretary will type it up and he'll sign it,
Probably.
okay?
That I will say I'm not a fan of that advice as much. And a big part of why I'm not is because there are certain styles in which faculty write letters. And they do so based off of their years and years and years of experience and sort of the way that they'll assess you compared to other students that they've worked with. It's actually a very dry and sort of boring style of letter writing, in my opinion. It's not made for good reading, but it's very specific. It's almost like its own secret language in a way. And so students are not experts in how to do that. You're not experts in your field, the way that you are. But getting back to kind of what I was saying, absolutely give them bulleted reasons why you're asking them, as well as your contributions, right? Like give them the opportunity to like copy and paste like some great things that you've done into a letter, that they are kind of then adding elements around that they know they need to include.
Okay,
But yeah,
and I just
so
have,
yeah, give them the information, but don't write the letter by any means, because
We've
it's
actually,
not going to be
believe
a
it or
very
not,
good letter.
Kelly, actually, sadly, we've actually had faculty tell students to do that.
I know.
It's like crazy,
I
right?
had to deal with a few issues last year.
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'll try something, one of those. I'll try something. Hopefully
Try it all. Try it all.
Yeah, I mean, the lab manager is very communicative. I asked him, I was applying for AACR membership, the American Association Cancer Research membership, and he gave me a nomination right away. So
That's great.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
yeah, I have one more question, and I'll be done. So for the Goldwater, like, how much research experience are they looking for?
Okay, well, this is also obviously for everyone a particularly difficult sort of time, right? But I think it's important to, right, every lab closed, you know, our student that was the Marshall endorsement student that I was talking about earlier, who had done the co-op and stuff like that. She was literally supposed to go this last summer to Baylor University to do virology research on coronavirus before the pandemic even started. Like, she is a virologist, she studies these things, and that lab closed, right? The lab, like in the US on coronavirus, closed for months. We'll talk about things that's essential, right? So this happened to everyone, you know, is kind of what I like to say. It even happened to the people studying the virus that we're trying to fight, you know? So do kind of keep in mind, everybody is in this position of, I've lost, you know, all this time. But, you know, be aware, like, yes, we want to see that you have had some research experience. Certainly, the more the better. The ongoing commitment that you can demonstrate to a research career is really what Goldwater is looking for. But, you know, early on when this was happening, Dr. Matea, who's the director of the Goldwater Scholarship, he was like, look, students can still theoretically train themselves on new lab techniques. They can train themselves on new methodologies, right, by reading about them. They can write literature reviews on, you know, projects that they're hoping to do when things reopen. So there are still things associated to research you can do without actually having that, you know, research time, I suppose. And so I think that's also hard, because pandemics affect everybody really differently. And not everybody's going to be able to kind of push through that, and that's okay too. So it really, it's going to come down to the application. It's not really a quantifiable sort of thing necessarily, but it's going to come down to the application on kind of how well you talk about your experiences and just what you've done generally, and more importantly, where it's going. The actually more longer form questions on that application are future oriented. They're more about, you know, your aspirations.
Where you want to. Leisha, did you do a cure? Right?
Yeah, I did the physics one.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So you did some research.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I started in February in a lab. I was kind of picky, so it took me a while to find a lab.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm told, yeah, I was supposed to do some in the summertime, so I missed the summer, but
Yeah. But
Yeah.
okay.
Like
All
I
right,
said,
so
everybody in the world does.
you know, time is a waste, and I think I'm going to let, besides, my dogs need to be walked.
I see someone's very eager.
Yeah, they're hanging out. They've been very patient, except one is eating my notepad. Anyway, so you have her contact, and you got your list, and there's listed on the honors page.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that you each pick at least one. I call them serial award winners, Kelly.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah, when you get one, then you get the next. Yeah, I call them serial awards. So
I think of it very biblical, like X begot Y begot Z.
That's right. That's right.
That's how I always think of it.
Yeah. So why don't we say thank you and cut her loose and appreciate it. I do appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And frankly, in some ways, the pandemic has been beneficial because we can stay in chat for a while. We're not, you know, getting kicked out of a room. So
Yeah.
for some people, it's like, gosh, let me go off this call. And that's okay too. But, you know, I'm eager to answer questions while we have the time. So it's good.
Okay.
And yeah, and like Dr. Donnelly said, please apply for at least one. You're probably going to approach me about one, and I'm going to tell you about 2 or 3 more that it's going to be worth your time, you know, additionally to work on. And you may approach me with one and I say like, it's not going to work, but here are 4 others, you know, that will. So I'm usually good at that redirect or adding on for sure. So yeah, it's time consuming and it is hard work, but it's really good work. And like I said, no matter the outcome, it's going to benefit you for a long time to come for sure. So yeah, thank you everybody.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you
Have
so
a great
much.
rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, Alicia.
Bye. I'd had a quick question. I don't want to take up your time,
No, it's okay.
but
But it's just the dog that's waiting. Okay.
I'm applying for the mobile outreach clinic volunteer position. Could you write me a recommendation for it?
Yeah. So the thing that she didn't tell you was if you're going to ask anybody, I can't make this work. If you're going to ask anybody for here, see, that's what's going on here. Do you see that?
Oh,
The whole time she's been like trying to put her head on the computer and stuff. Okay. Anytime you ask anybody for a letter, you got to send them what you're applying for, and your resume, and if you have a personal statement.
yeah.
And
I will. I was going to send you everything, but I figured it'd be better if I asked you in person.
No, that's
first.
perfect. I'd be happy to. Make sure you tell me when it is.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I've been applying to all these volunteer positions, and I haven't been getting any. So.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I'm gonna go walk my dogs now.
All right. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.